He was born April 28, 1756.
Monroe's parents died when he was in his mid-teens. His father passed away in 1774, and his mother did the same thing, but no one is quite sure when she died. James Monroe was over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and had a massive, raw-boned frame. He was well-formed and well-mannered. He dressed very plain and old style. He was quiet and dignified.
He went to study at the College of William and Mary, but he found it frustrating and decided to go to war instead.
At the Battle of Trenton, James Monroe was shot in the shoulder by a musket. Now we're going to reenact that.
James Monroe, among others, helped George Washington cross the Delaware River at the Battle of Trenton.
It's the thrill of one more kill, the last one to fall. We'll never sacrifice their will. They'll never look back on the world closing in. Beyond the attack with your wings on the wind. All the things will begin. And it's sweet.
In 1784, George Washington sent Monroe to France to repair the broken relationship since the relationship. He lived there for the next 3 years along with his family. A large argument between Washington and Monroe caused Washington to take James out of France. He was elected U.S. Senator at 32 and was recognized as a star on the rise, and without the help of Thomas Jefferson and George Mason, he wouldn't have made it. In 1803, he was asked to go back to France by Thomas Jefferson, the new president of the United States, to talk to the ambassador about buying the port of New Orleans. He lived there for 4 years, and he made the greatest contribution to the United States by accepting the Louisiana Purchase for $11 million.
And now we have a special guest with us today, Richard Brookhiser, who is going to talk to you about James Monroe.
The funny thing about James Monroe is that no one ever seems to have thought terribly well of him.
James Madison asked him to be his Secretary of State when Madison became President of the United States.
After the war, he studied under Thomas Jefferson, and in 1782 he was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. 1783 to 1786 he served in the Continental Congress that met in New York, where he met his wife.
He got married February 16, 1786.
James and his wife, Elizabeth Courtwright, had 3 children, Eliza, James, and Maria Hester. James Spence, his second child, died when he was 1 year old.
From 1799 to 1802, James Monroe served as the governor of Virginia. From 1803 to 1807, he served as the United States Minister to France and England. It was in this position that he helped negotiate the Louisiana Purchase between the United States and France.
Another special guest that's going to talk to us is Carol Birkin.
He had, in many ways, a false mostly easy presidency. This is supposed to be the era of good feeling.
After being the minister to France, James Monroe moved his family from the United States to France and back several times, selling many farmlands and many households, giving up their lives and moving constantly.
In 1816, James Monroe won a landslide victory to become the new president. He was president during the era of good feelings.
This was a happy time for the United States. Everyone felt like they were one, and they were all happy with each other. There was nothing wrong with the country, and everyone was united. The people of the United States were so happy that they celebrated. Everyone hung out with each other, they played games and partied. Everyone was so happy during the presidency of James Monroe. He was finally able to demonstrate to the country what it was like to finally have peace without any sort of conflict whatsoever. When your president's happy, the country's happy. When the country's happy, the people are happy. One of Monroe's first acts as president was to put together his cabinet. Wanting to assemble a group of advisors from different regions of the country, he turned to New England native John Quincy Adams as the Secretary of State. Adams had a long diplomatic career, and with their similar backgrounds in foreign affairs, the two men established a good working relationship. Then he chose William J. Crawford from Georgia as the Secretary of Treasury and sought out a Westerner to serve as Secretary of War. Unable to persuade his first choices, he picked John C. Calhoun from South Carolina. Then he turned to an old friend, William Wirt, to be his Attorney General and decided to keep Benjamin Crownshield as the Secretary of Navy. Monroe's cabinet has been noted to be an exceptionally strong and very good one. The president assembled a group of intelligent and talented men who were very good administrators. He then gave them a lot of freedom to do their job, and he encouraged debate among the men. But they never doubted Monroe, and they firmly believed in him. He made the final decisions and expected his cabinet to support him in every decision he made, and he would support them. Monroe was noted to be very popular and very well liked among the people of America and of all the other countries. The Missouri Compromise. In 1820, President James Monroe signed the Missouri Compromise, which equalized slave states and non-slave states. Missouri was admitted as a slave state, and Maine was admitted as a non-slave state. Monroe grew up in Virginia, which was a slaveholding state, so he favored strong state rights but let Congress worry about the slavery issue. The Missouri Compromise added to the era of good feelings in the country, but in the end, the Missouri Compromise failed to end permanent ease of the slavery issue. The Monroe Doctrine was signed on December 2nd, 1823.
One of the most important policies of the Monroe presidency was the Monroe Doctrine. It was designed to keep European nations from colonizing land or interfering with states in North or South America from the point of signing onwards. It was introduced on December 2nd, 1823.
Now here is an interview between Courtney Olson and James Monroe.
Hold on.
Good morning, Mr. Monroe. Today I'd like to talk with you about the Monroe Doctrine. Why was it created?
Well, after the Revolutionary War, we didn't have very much money because we spent all of it on the Revolutionary War. So if somebody from Europe tried to do something like that again, we would not be able to defend ourselves properly. So we wrote up the doctrine to keep them from coming over here, basically.
Do you think it's going to work?
I think it worked pretty well.
So why did you make it for both North and South America?
Well, the South Americans had already had a lot of trouble with the Europeans prior to us moving in, and by the time that we wrote the Monroe Doctrine,
In 1821, President James Monroe was re-elected to a second term. President James Monroe was the third president to die on Independence Day. And he died from tuberculosis in New York, New York. He died at the age of 73. He is buried in the Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia. James Monroe came to the presidency as one of the most qualified men. He served in the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress, and the U.S. Senate. He also served as the governor of Virginia. He filled many diplomatic spots, and he held 2 cabinet appointments. All his success as a politician came from his hard work and hard-headed manner to make him one of the best presidents of the Virginia dynasty.
Fun facts. He was the first president to ride on a steamboat. Wow! James Monroe went to college when he was only 16. What a nerd! The capital of Liberia is named after James Monroe. It's called Monrovia.
After Monroe was shot by a bullet, it stayed in his arm.
His favorite food was chicken. Bok bok. James Monroe once chased the Secretary of Treasury out of the White House with a pair of fire tongs.
That must have been hot.
Abraham Lincoln was once on the $100 bill, yet then was replaced by James Monroe, and in 1891 he was replaced then by Benjamin Franklin. His 2 nicknames were the Heir of Good Feelings President and the Last Cocked Hat. He was most known for being a soldier, a diplomat, a governor, a senator, and a cabinet official in his entire lifetime. During Monroe's presidency, 5 new states had joined the Union: Mississippi in 1817, Illinois in 1818, Alabama in 1819, Maine in 1820, and Missouri in 1821. 25% of American population was living west of the Appalachian Mountains in 1820, and according to the Land Act of 1820, farmers could buy 80 acres at $1.25 per acre with a down payment of $100.